What's going on? It's Big Mike coming at you again from the One Life podcast, trying to bring it from a different perspective, trying to talk about different topics, different things that is relevant to our culture, hip-hop culture, because hip-hop culture, as I said, affects everything. You know, we are part of hip-hop culture. We was raised in hip-hop culture, and as we could see, it's affecting everything. It's affecting politics, it's affecting fashion, the way kids are raised, different genres of music. It's kind of all blending, you know, everything is all blending. And a lot of times what starts to happen, we start to lose the principles of hip-hop. We start forgetting where hip-hop came from. And a lot of times, like even with religion, even with anything, you gotta understand the foundation of it, and you gotta understand the rules of it so you can maintain the traditions of whatever it is. Because then you start losing, people just start fading away. They start, not sticking with the traditional habits, etc. You know what I mean? I could go on and on about that, but that's the whole point of this 5-part series that I have, breaking down the top 5, because the top 5 is very important. It gives you an overview of the greatest hip-hop artists of all time and one of the most influential music genres ever. Hip-hop was birthed from the crack era, kids of the civil rights movement, children that were, parents went through the crack era, the 70s era, and through all of that, trying to find a voice, trying to bring that back, trying to recover different communities all across America. Hip-hop was birthed, man, in the Bronx, or other places as well, but everybody says the Bronx. That's pretty much a consensus amongst hip-hop historians. So let's just start there. You know what I'm saying? That's where it all started. So it's very important when you're speaking to people, young, old, anybody that's of age and has any type of understanding and could hold the most basic of conversations. With technology today, you could do any type of research you want and go back and hear different music, go through people's catalog, do a comparison. There's no excuse anymore. I don't want to hear, well, I'm old, I'm young, I'm too young to listen to it, or I'm too old to listen to that. Music is music. You know what I mean? You got to understand that it has a frequency, it has a feeling, it brings you to a certain place. Of course, as I said before, it's nothing like hearing the music when it came out at that particular time. You could never feel it like the people had actually experienced it in that moment. But, you could always visualize. You could try to put yourself in that situation. You could read information. You could go back, look through interviews. We got technology now. The internet is a blessing for a hip-hop head. You know what I'm saying? We don't got to do the Stretch and Bobbito thing and listen late night to try to hear the new exclusives. We could go through the internet. It's a lot of work. You got to sift through a lot of trash to get through something good, but it was kind of always like that. The only difference now is we inundated with all different types of music, and it's like amateur night right now, so you get to hear a lot of amateurs. But no disrespect to the amateur hip-hop's heads out there, the hip-hop acts out there trying to just come up. No disrespect, you know what I'm saying? So, because those amateur acts could be the next greats, so keep it up. But at the end of the day, it's hard to sift through and try to find that gem. There's been a lot of gems throughout the years. And with that being said, let's go into the number 4 on my list, which was very, very difficult for me to put the number 3. The number 4, my bad. Reason I mentioned number 3, because I was going through all types of struggles, who was going to be the number 3 and who was going to be the number 4. Because those two artists to me were interchangeable, and it took me some time. I think that's why it took so long between part 5 and part 4 for me to come with this video, because I was really torn. It's been a week since I did the last video, so for the last week I've been sitting down really contemplating. One day I would put the other artist, the next day I say, you know what, nah, it's this one. And at the end of the day, I think I got it. I'm pretty sure I got it. Going through the catalogs of both of these artists, seeing all of the impact that they had on the game, I had to go back. I had to go to the 80s for my number 4 artist. The reason being, hip-hop started in the late 70s to early 80s. And being that hip-hop started the late 70s to early 80s, we have to have a top 5 artist that's from that era. It's only right. That's how it all started, you know? So we had many soloists in the 80s. That was the birth of the great soloist. The combative MC, the warrior MC, the one that wanted to have the crown, the one that wanted to proclaim themselves the king of New York, all of that, king of hip hop, period. But that spirit started in New York, and there was many soloists in the 80s that are remembered today. Many, let me not say many. There's about 5 or 6 of them that almost anybody knows, anybody could name in New York, Jersey, tri-state area, solo artists. You got Rakim, was a monster. Came out, you know, Google's your friend. You can look it up if I make any dates wrong. You know what I mean? I'm just spitting off the top. But around 88, my dude Rakim came out with his first CD. Was a monstrous album. You know, 88, 87. Around the same time, maybe after, Big Daddy Kane comes out with some fire. Wow. A master soloist. Many comparisons between Big Daddy Kane and Rakim. You know? Many debates on who's better. You know what I mean? Big Daddy Kane had the whole swag down, the lyrics, the flow. You know what I mean? He was the man. You know, Rakim mastered the 5%, came to the game with that storytelling, just sharp. You know, metaphor sharp. Where he kicked the rhymes was no joke. It was amazing, man. You know what I mean? It kind of changed the game. It was one of those things that just put you in the mood. You put it on, it was a mood shifting type of music. You play it and you just quiet. Sometimes you're not even bopping your head. You just looking. You just had that screw face on, like, yo, what did he just say? And you had Kool G Rap. This dude was like, wow, the originators, you know. Eminem was number 5 on my list, but dudes like M took a lot from dudes like Kool G Rap. The original storyteller, dark, telling all types of crazy hood tales. You know what I mean? Could have wrote a freaking script to a movie. You know what I mean? All of the ghetto tales. Kool G Rap would have part 1, part 2, part 3 of the same story. And then the dude's metaphors and the way he would just rhyme almost every word was incredible. Then we had one of the originators, Battlers. Ladies love this dude. You know what I mean? The quintessential soloist, the man. LL Cool J. How could we name the 80s soloist without naming one of the kings, LL Cool J? The birth of dudes like Jay-Z's and the Drakes out of the world, the Biggies of the world, the Maces of the world. The list goes on of what LL birthed, you know, for better or for worse. I would say for better. But there's only one. I got a name out the list that when I just dig deep and I look and I see that actually till today still could spit fire, you know, went through all of the ranks, had one of the greatest battles in hip hop history, gave Queens a black eye for a long time, had Queens hiding, you know, came through talking about the bridge is over. Like, what is this man talking about? Coming in the game with Criminal Minded, you know, just like what's going on? Change the game, you know, aggression, knowledge of self. One of the first, if not the first, heavily conscious rappers that ever came to the game, you know, coming to the scene with the Malcolm X album cover after Criminal Minded. Just classic after classic this man was dropping. It was just incredible. And we like to talk about the Kanye West of the world, geniuses, and the J. Coles of the world, and all of these rapper producers, but people forget that KRS also produced a lot of records as well. He was producing entire albums of his catalog, you know? This man was also producing and writing his rhymes at the same time. A supreme soloist that did it for 30 years. Also built the foundation of hip-hop, was instrumental in just trying to just hold what's true to hip-hop, trying to come with books. At his hip-hop shows, this dude would have some whole table behind him, not really a table, but like a whole wheel trying to break down the principles of hip-hop. He held that true, a true soloist. So, When I look through all of the artists in the 80s and see who's going to be number 4 on my list, it's KRS-ONE, Boogie Down Bronx. Who else could it be? The man was still popping in the 90s. Many people didn't want to battle this man. There was very few artists in the 80s, in the 90s that wanted to test Chris. That's facts. There's no question in that. The man is still respected globally as a hip hop. This dude could be on some Jerry West shit and be the hip hop logo. Might sound crazy, but when you really break down the God's history and realize dude was doing songs like My Philosophy and doing crazy joints where he was actually teaching the youth at the same time. One of the first rappers to ever do that, if not the first. If there's another one, it's probably one. And he wasn't as mainstream and known as KRS-ONE. And he was having whole projects like this. It wasn't just 1 or 2 songs or 1 or 2 little verses where he was kicking some knowledge. He was straight kicking knowledge, song for song for song, by any means necessary. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So this is what this dude was doing. Return to the boom back, jumping in the studio with my man Premier in the 90s now. Now we jumping all the way to the 90s. He's still dropping bangers. And he's doing club joints. Step into the world, all of these joints popping in the clubs. He had club joints. So I'm like, when you put it all together, he wasn't the highest selling out of that group, but he was successful at what he did. Had independent rap, had many independent albums as well. A great independent artist. One of the forefathers of really preaching that independent shit to other rappers, like, yo, fuck these labels, etc. You know, he was really kicking that science. So we gotta give that to KRS-ONE. He's one of the forefathers of hip hop. He's one of the men that battled. He had one of the most historic battles in hip hop history that is still being played all over. We had back-to-back being played in the club with Drake. You know what I mean? One of the first battle raps was KRS-ONE that was being played in the club, being played in dude's car, bumping down the street. But there was no violence behind it. It was just straight for the sport. That's what it was about. Like, we sparring right now. To the point where them dudes are still going back and forth in 2019, man. You know what I mean? On some elderly boxing shit, but it's all good. It just goes to show you the competitive nature of this game. So all of these battles that preceded it, you know what I mean? Going back and forth, rapper trying to end the other rapper's career. You know, that was one of the shining moments in hip hop, because those were 2 artists. You know, Shan was nice. He wasn't a bum, so he was nice as well. So KRS-ONE took that man out and tried to take out a whole borough in the process. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, we got to give it to KRS-ONE. We got to show respect to KRS-ONE. So if there's any young people that's listening to this podcast, if you 15, if you 13, if you 14, please go back and listen to KRS' first 4 to 5 albums to 6 albums and really science it, really go back, really listen to what this man was trying to say, and then put yourself in that time frame. Put yourself understanding who he was competing with. Understand, go back and listen to Run DMC, listen to LL Cool J, listen to his contemporaries, and then listen to his content and see how far left his content was with his competitors, and how he pushed his competitors to really start being more knowledge born on their tracks. You know what I'm saying? It probably wouldn't really be a Rakim 5% Nation rapper without KRS-ONE. It's very possible. Maybe it would, maybe they not. You know what I mean? That's my opinion. A lot of this isn't my opinion, because KRS really is still popping, really does got bars, and really his catalog really spans almost 20 albums, you know, a lot more than the people that I'm saying in the 80s that he's competing with. But in terms of Rakim being conscious because of KRS, that could be my opinion, but that's what I think. But if you go back and you listen to all of the catalogs, you peep the dates, you peep the times, you peep the videos, you'll see the trend that he started. So with that being said, I'm gonna end it like that with my number 4, which is KRS, man. That's KRS-ONE. The top 5, again, man, is very important. It's very important, man. It lets you see into the psyche of a hip-hop listener. It lets you look through the psyche of the hip-hop listener. If you're speaking to young or old, you got to ask them that question. If you're having any hip-hop conversation, it would allow you to understand what this person's listened to. If they're a hip-hop head, if they just skim through hip-hop, if they just listen to it sometimes, or they're the type of person that just listens to hip-hop when they're in the club, they ain't really into the genre like that, you'll be able to tell, you know what I mean? And you'll be able to gauge it from there. But this is a hip-hop conversation that we starting it off. And with that being said, we got to start again with the top 5. And number 4 on the list is KRS-ONE. We going to touch base with y'all again. We going to come with number 3 coming up next. It's going to be another great artist. It's going to be somebody that was very influential to the game and had a very big role in the different artists that preceded him as well. You know, this man was close to being number 3, but after further listening, I had to put him at number 3. KRS number 4. So with that being said, I'm going to end it like that. Peace to everybody. If you got any comments in the bottom, if you don't agree with me, please come at me. Let me know who you think is number 4, or who you think shouldn't, if KRS should even be on the list. You more than welcome to say that as well. But again, you better come at me with somebody that got catalog, that stood the test of time, that had a serious impact, positive or negative, on the game. You know what I mean? More than likely has to be positive, because remember, this art affects everything from the clothes you wear, from the politics, from the women you date, everything. Like, this is very important. Music is very influential to all cultures all throughout history and time. And we in the hip-hop era of culture. So let's stay true to our hip-hop roots. Let's stay true to the top 5. And let's hold these greats, you know what I mean, these Mount Rushmore rappers to high esteem. So with that being said, you know what I mean, click like, let me know what y'all think. You know what I mean, I'm going to come back at y'all again with number 3. 1.